Ghana has already attracted wide global backing for its landmark resolution, which will be represented at the United Nations on Wednesday, and will call for the transatlantic slave trade to be formally recognized as a crime against humanity. President John Mahama, who serves as the African Union's champion for reparations, is leading the initiative. Who supports and who opposes the resolution? The 54-member African Union, CARICOM, and Brazil are among the key supporters. The U.S. Congressional Black Caucus, the global group of experts on reparations, and several civil society groups have also declared their backing. But both Europe and the United States are expected to vote against the resolution, a stance which Ghana has strongly criticized. What does the resolution demand? The proposal calls for formal acknowledgement of the transatlantic slave trade as a crime against humanity, official apologies and financial reparations, citing the enduring economic and social consequences of slavery.
Greetings from the east, north to south, and this wicked-ass west. The topic, reparations. The questions, why you think Argentina, Israel, and the United States voted against African slavery as being a crime against humanity. Let's get into it. I'm your host. I am the one.
Here is what I think. Now, the three nations that voted against crimes against humanity, which we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade. We got Argentina, Israel, and of course, America. Of course, we'll start with Israel. One of the things we were taught when we was coming up is how much of an ally the so-called Jewish people are with the black people. Of course, I know that's a damn lie, but that was the lie. But one thing I noticed about that is when it come down to black people's struggle, slavery, discrimination, what have you, they are nowhere to be found. And if they are around, we're talking about the Jewish people, they're there to make a buck because they are there simply to get exposure, you know, putting their name in headlines about what great people they are and what they have done for some poor black person. But in reality, no. It's pure hatred there. Now, of course, I know who are the true Jews, and I'm one of them. I'm from the tribe of Judah. I realize that. But of course, let them tell it that they are the true Jews, and they accept everybody in Israel, but they treat the black so-called Jewish people in Israel like trash. So when they vote against it, it doesn't surprise me at all. You know, the first thing they'll, holler out if you say anything against them is anti-Semitism. Of course, they expect you to feel sorry for the Holocaust. They say 6 million? That's the number they came up with, 6 million. Now, the black Holocaust, over 100 million. But guess what? That, to them, is not a crime against humanity. Now, theirs is a crime against humanity. Ours, no. Argentina, it doesn't surprise me at all. That's the home of the Nazis. You know, they ran for their lives after the Second World War. Of course, they ran Argentina. America is a racist, filthy, racist place. And they do that stuff with a straight face. Between America and Israel, two of the most racist group of white people that you will ever meet in your life. I mean, it's just that simple. Now, the European nations, they abstain from voting. You know what that means, right? Because if they voted no, which they really wanted to vote no, it would make them seem and look guilty. So these good Christian white people say, you know what, I'm just not going to vote at all. Well, because you did not vote, you voted no. And I hope I'm saying it right. When I say no, I'm saying that it's not a crime against humanity, according to these European nations. You know, so In other words, they had a large part in the slave trade. They benefited greatly from the slave trade. So when it come down to holding them accountable, holding some form of accountability, they say no. Nothing to see here. Washing their bloody hands from it, and they'll look you dead in the face, and they'll tell you it's a long time ago, and you don't deserve no form of reparations. But yet they just got done paying the slave owners in Britain. They just got done paying them after all those years. They repaid them reparations because they lost their slaves. But the actual people that did all the work and suffered, how much? Not one penny. Let's go to the next clip.
193. That's the number of member nations in the world body. 193. Put it up for a mass. The UN General Assembly on Wednesday did, in fact, adopt the resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans, quote, the gravest crime against humanity, end quote, and calling for reparations as, quote, a concrete step towards remedying historical wrongs. Unlike UN Security Council resolutions, General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding, but are important reflections of world opinion. The president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, a key architect of the resolution, said before the vote, quote, today we come together in solemn solidarity to affirm the truth and pursue a route to healing and reparative justice. Let me remind everyone that the United States of America is not antithetical to the notion of reparations. They are not anti-reparations. They are actually pro-reparations. They have given reparations to former slave owners in the United States of America. They have given reparations to the Japanese. This country has given reparations to family members of Holocaust survivors and even a form of reparations to Native Americans. But they have not given reparations to Black folk.
Is the question of seeing where countries stand? Yes. Listen, you talk about Argentina, they have a serious issue with racism. Listen, the Nazis, a lot of the Nazis fled Germany after World War II, and they decamped to Argentina. And so you have Israel and the United States, the three countries voting no. And so let's talk about that, but also those 52 countries that abstained. A lot of European folks abstained.
It's criminal. It's embarrassing. We live in a nation that was built on the backs of our ancestors, enslaved people. And the least this country can do, not what they should do, which is reparations, not what they should do, which is ensure fair and adequate and equal opportunity to every single American citizen, because that's so far beyond the understanding of those that we, the American people, have put in power. But the least they can do is recognize the atrocities. This was the simplest, easiest thing this nation could have done to make a small step towards atonement for all of us who are those who remain of the evil that they did to our ancestors. And they couldn't even do that.
Ghana went to the UN and proposed this resolution that the UN would acknowledge that slavery was a gravest crime against humanity and also adopt reparation policy, right? So the measure, it passed, right? So the UN General Assembly has voted to recognize the slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. The proposal by Ghana was adopted with 123 votes in favor and 3 against: the US, Israel, and Argentina. So it passed, but look who voted against it. And I'm going to break this down so that you can understand why people are upset. The US, Israel, and Argentina voted against it. And, you know, some people are really shocked at the way some of these countries voted. I'm not. I'm not. In fact, some people are like pulling their hair out because the U.S. said no. The U.S. rejects the vote to recognize slavery as a crime against humanity. The United Nations resolution was led by the president of Ghana. Israel and Argentina also voted against it. The way that people are, shocked by this, it was kind of interesting to me. People were like, Israel, the US, Argentina, they said no. People obviously don't know like where we live. And this gentleman here, who is the foreign minister of Ghana, he said, we did it for Africa and all people of African descent. And this is where some people will come in and will say, well, this was a global issue. This happened all over the world. It didn't just happen in the United States. True. But the problem that you run into legally, especially when it comes to those of us here in the US, legally in this country, we can't say you have to give repair to Black people, because that goes against the 14th Amendment. That's why you have to base it on status. And that's in this country. I don't know how it is in Ghana, but that's how it is in this country. That's the law. So that's the problem that you run into. But I just want to show you the map because you're probably wondering about Europe. So Alan McLeod was the first person that I saw share this. And again, the three countries who voted against it, the USA, Israel, and Argentina. Nearly all of Europe abstained. So a lot of the European countries, which definitely participated and profited from it, didn't vote at all. No yes or no. I know a lot of people talk about Portugal, about how it's so great and there's Black people moving there. Portugal also abstained, and they were also a part of the slave trade. So the reason why I want you to see this map is for a reason. Anybody notice something? The blue countries are the ones that supported it, that voted for it. Wow, look, of course, all the countries in Africa. Look at the Middle East. Oh, look, there's Iran. Look at that. Russia, China, South America. Now, there were a few in South America that could not vote, said did not or could not vote. Those were the light blue countries. But you see that big red there for Argentina, didn't agree with it, nor did the US, nor did Israel, which is so tiny, you can barely see it here. But all of these European countries that abstained, I think that says something. And community notes will show you that it was also not just a condemnation of the slave trade, it was also a call for reparations, right? So here's my thing. Imagine if it were the other way around. Do you think if Israelis went to the UN and they said, we want you to say that the Holocaust was a grave crime against humanity and we want reparations, do you think those countries would have voted against it? So peep this, fam. 2022, the UN. I just want to show you the difference now. The UN General Assembly approves resolution condemning Holocaust denial. Resolution that condemns the denial and distortion of the Holocaust, and rightfully so. But who voted against it? Y'all see this? It was approved in the presence of a group of people who survived the genocide and killed around 6 million Jewish people, some 2/3 Jewish population of Europe during World War II. But all I can say is this. They are willing to move in a certain way for some and not for others. And what I will say to this is that, again, turn down for what?
This is the very reason why FBAs or Foundational Black Americans are deciding to just sit it out. FBAs decide, we're going to take care of Black business. The reason why is because these other groups don't like us. And I mean, certain groups, I know that personally I have absolutely positively nothing against. As a matter of fact, some groups I really consider family because I'm from the 12 tribes. If you know, you know. But the thing about that is this. If other groups decide they don't want to lend a helping hand, fine. I'll just stick with my own kind. Never set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Thank you for watching. I am your host. I am the one.